We are so screwed. The market is over. The bear market is here. Bitcoin is down only. That's probably what you're thinking if you listen to a certain subset of people. Then there's the other half that say the market's not close to being over. We still have a massive parabolic run. So the question a lot of people are wondering, are we screwed? Is the top for Bitcoin in? We're going to share both sides of the perspective with you, and we're going to decide together whether we think the top is in or whether we think another massive rally is coming. Also, big news coming out of Ripple, not just Brad Garlinghouse getting married, but Ripple RLUSD is integrating with Securities and BlackRock. Talk about that. We'll talk about Vitalik Buterin. We'll talk about a new Solana project that's sitting at under $50 million. Could this be the next $1 billion PerpDex project like we saw with Aster, like we saw with MYX? To our Patreon members, I did post a Patreon post talking about the next big moves. And well, one of them so far has come true already, and it's only been 24 hours. I'll share a little bit of that with the people watching here today. We have Magic joining us to break down the charts. I'm going to ask him for his best case Bitcoin scenario and his worst case Bitcoin scenario. We have that and much, much more on today's episode of Sin City Crypto. Let's go.
Hola! Welcome to Sin City Crypto, home of the entertainment-focused cryptocurrency content. We take that old, boring, stale information and we traumatize you and tell you how bad the market's doing and how the top is in, and oh my God, everything's on fire. But we do it in a fun and sexy way. Guys, calm down. You know, we've been stuck in this this little range pattern here, or range bound. If you go back this last 30 days, just been ping ponging between this 115. Remember, we did see briefly under 110, but that was only short lived. And it was a total of 2 days. So 2 days we were under 110, but in the rest of the 30 days, so the other 28 days, we were above 110. So feel pretty confident on that support level. You never know what could happen, but I don't know, man. I think we're on the bottom end of this price channel. We've been hanging out for a while, and you know, you look historically, we kind of saw something here similar. Where we just got fatigued. We got into 100K, and it was 2 months, 3 months, 3 months where we were meeting resistance at 100K. Kind of similar, but inverse here. Instead of meeting resistance at 100K, we're meeting support at 100K, but we're not getting much upside movement. And then prior to the big breakout, we did sell off, and then we shook out the scared money, and then off to the races, and then back in May, we broke up above 100,000, and well, we've been looking at pretty good ever since, and higher highs and higher lows. So I haven't seen anything that spooks me out of the market. I think that if you're going to signal a top, you're going to get a big green candle, some short-term big volatility to the upside. And then I think you get a blow off top, right? We've seen it time and time again when it comes to Bitcoin's previous all-time high tops. Is this the one cycle you don't get a blow off top? I don't really buy that. So I think that this long-term consolidation has been pretty healthy. Has it put y'all to sleep? Have you been over here just crying yourself saying, hey, when is my moon bags going to pump? Hi, David.
Hi. So, you guys kind of know where we stand, but I think it's important to take into consideration both sides of the argument here. But before I get into kind of laying out the scenario of, well, why are people saying the top is in and what are some reasons that the top is not in, I do want to give a big thank you. Today's show is brought to you by Revolution Mining. Now, we partner with Revolution Mining, as you can see on your screen here. They are a mining hosting facility in Texas, and they help you get into the Bitcoin mining action in 3 ways. One, you get your miners at cost. They give you access to the top performing Hydro ASICs at their cost, no markup. Number 2 is they host and power everything, right? The miners are hosted at their Texas facility and are powered at ultra low rate of 0.052 kilowatts per hour. No deposits, no support fees. They fix all the repairs and no maintenance fees. And then you just share the Bitcoin. 50-50 is a split. They take care of all the maintenance. They take care of all the operations. The only cost to you is your power. So if you want to get into the Bitcoin mining action and you don't have the funds to do what Marathon or Riot or even what our friends at Revolution Mining did, go to the website. There's a link in the description. And big thanks to Revolution Mining for sponsoring today's show. So let's start here. So now we have the side of well, the top is in. This is one. I'll tell you, there's more bullish than bearish, but I'll share the bearish. Altcoin flush accelerates. 8 billion in altcoin open interest was wiped out. Over 5x more than Bitcoin, which only saw 1.5. The gap between Bitcoin and the rest starts to close. We saw yesterday, it was the largest liquidation ever. Well, not ever, excuse me. This year so far in the markets. And well, Bitcoin went down. So, I don't know. You're seeing a lot of whale movement. You're seeing some indicators flash that say the top is in. We'll get Magic's take. And then you have our friend CryptoFace, who I'll say is rarely wrong. He definitely gets some things wrong. I don't know if you guys watched this, but he was doing a live show. It was a 23-minute live show. And he posted this. He said, "Is it over? Market cipher from the chart show us the answer as always. It's our choice if you listen or not." And if you guys know CryptoFace, you know he typically spends time in the lower time frames. He was actually looking at the daily and the weekly, and he was just highlighting how everything looks very bearish. And there was a potential for a massive short setup on the weekly time frame, waiting on that trigger wave to flash. If it does, he mentioned money flow crossing over into the red. So seems like he was a little bearish. I know this is one person and one person's opinion based on the facts that they have in front of them or based on technical indicators. But the other thing is a sentiment. We haven't gotten this massive rally, the parabolic rally. We should have gotten one yet. It's been 2 years. We're just chopping sideways. ETH barely broke an all-time high. You guys keep sharing this bullish news, and this person's buying, and that person's buying, and the price hasn't moved. So you have the sentiment side as well. So these are the people that are kind of saying, hey, look, we're screwed. Now, I want to show some other things that lead me to believe that the market cycle is not over and the top is, in fact, not in. So we have this here from Jason Yanowitz. DEXs cleared over $1 trillion in back-to-back quarters for the first time ever. Okay? For the first time ever, back-to-back quarters. So for 6 consecutive months, cumulatively, $1 trillion every quarter, every 3 months, back-to-back for the first time ever. So are things under the hood still happening? As you can see here, at least in the world of DeFi, the answer is yes. Then you have this, $200 million crypto raises in one day. Ask yourself this question, is this bear market news? Archetype secures $100 million for a third crypto venture fund. And fast-growing crypto and stablecoin startup Zero Hash raises $104 million. Okay. I don't really think this happens during bear markets. I don't really think stuff like this happens after Bitcoin tops. I don't know. You make that determination yourself. You also have, from a legal standpoint, from a governmental standpoint, U.S. lawmakers, posted by All In Crypto, U.S. lawmakers have urged the SEC to implement President Trump's executive order allowing 401ks to invest in Bitcoin and crypto. They sent a letter to Paul Atkins. We write to express our support for President Trump's executive order, democratizing access to alternative assets. The CEO directs the Secretary of Labor to consult with the Securities and Exchange Commission to determine the necessity of parallel regulatory changes. Given these directives, we encourage the SEC to provide swift assistance to the Secretary of Labor to make any necessary revisions to its current regulations and guidance. So you have that, right? We're talking 401ks. It's in the trillions, right? It's not a small number. We also have this. Hey, Morgan Stanley, ever heard of them? Yeah, me too. They are going to start offering Bitcoin and crypto trading in the first half of next year through E-Trade. This is $1.3 trillion Morgan Stanley. This is the Morgan Stanley that has been around for a very long time. This is one that, well, I think the number on the screen there says enough, 1.3 trillion. They're getting into crypto and Bitcoin. Okay. And the last thing I do want to share here as well, a record $7.7 trillion. I know I talk about this number all the time, but it's very important. $7.7 trillion is currently parked in money market funds. Think of these as CDs. Low risk, steady interest. Okay. Their average yield is 4.1%. If rates continue to decline, does that money look to find a new home elsewhere? The answer is yes, especially if inflation starts to tick up. If you can't even outpace inflation, you are literally losing money. This is what the wealthy and the affluent people understand and the hedge funds understand. So you're always looking to maximize your yield, your return. And if rates get cut down and you're earning 3% in money market funds, it's just not practical to have almost $8 trillion parked into these funds. And so you look at both sides, the bearish and the bullish. And I know if you just focus on price action and technical analysis, I can see why people tend to lean bearish. But I always like to tell people, zoom out, pop the hood of the car open, look in there, take your flashlight. Is this working properly? Is this working properly? Is this working properly? If it is, I don't know. Those are my thoughts. I definitely lean towards the top is not in. I do think, actually, there's a little more downside, though. I do think we end September red. And then come October, I think we're going to start rallying. And honestly, I keep bringing up the idea of mini cycles. But imagine all the things, like all the stuff I just showed you, the SEC, the 401ks, the money market funds, Morgan Stanley. This is probably not going to come to fruition in terms of directly affecting our portfolios until next year. And so could we see the rest of 2025 be down and to the right? Could we close at around 100,000 in the year? Sure. Is that a probability? I don't think so. Is it a possibility? Yes. But then look forward into 2026. There's a lot to be bullish about. That's kind of where I stand. What are your thoughts?
I hear you. My big takeaway is
Did you hear me though?
I did. My big takeaway here is, if you're kind of up in the air on what's going on with the market or what's going on with your portfolio, I just look at this in two different buckets, right? You got what is Bitcoin doing and what do you expect out of alts? Actually, if you want to break alts down into two smaller buckets, I think that is the best representation of what to expect for this bull market. One, you got Bitcoin and institutions buying, and well, the price of Bitcoin, I think, is going to accumulate. So if you're looking at like, hey, is the top in and are we going to get this bull market cycle? Like, the answer to that is no, at least in regards to Bitcoin. And that's my opinion. Now, what does that mean for altcoins? That's a different story. I think that the days of everything's going to pump is kind of over. And well, also, I challenge you to think about this. And, a lot of people said that, hey, Bitcoin is the tide that raises all boats. I mean, that's a very popular saying. And they just basically say that Bitcoin goes up and then all the altcoins do as well. But last bull market, you had a ton of altcoins all rally. However, there was a lot of projects that people were bullish on that from a cycle before just simply faded out. Now, they did perform well because of a massive amount of capital that was just airdropped to U.S. citizens because of COVID and all the checks and the stimulus and the PPE loans. Anyways, a lot of money got dropped into the investor, the retail's hands. And, well, they started buying stuff. And so alts did well, but there was a lot that didn't. Not everything worked well, right? Dash, Monero, Litecoin, a lot of the projects that were of the previous cycle did not come back in the strength that they did cycle before. And I think the same's going to happen this time, but even more dramatically. I think that a lot of the older projects, and I say older projects, but a lot of the projects that were very, very strong last bull market will fade and just not perform well this bull market. And so Bitcoin, yeah, it's not at all-time high yet. It's going to keep rallying. Altcoins, however, that's what you question. Will you get the same performance out of ETH and Solana that you got last bull market? Perhaps. I'd like to think so. I like to think that the utility and the users are telling me that, right? Because that's where people are going and people are building. Go a little further down the list, that's when you start scratching your head and you're like, hey, are these going to be prominent areas for people to use? Are there going to be innovations? Is there going to be dApps? Is there going to be people using it? Because the days of like, hey, one day this company and this country and this blockchain is going to do X, Y, and Z, like you got to start delivering. Don't nobody care about promises no more. Nobody cares about how many transactions you can handle in 1 second. It's not as important. So I challenge you to take a look at your portfolio, say like, hey, what do I believe in? What do I think will work? What are people interested in? Where's the buzz at? Where's the communities growing? Those are the ones that you should go and, perhaps layer more into and exit out of the positions that, well, just strictly community, but not really much is happening. And so
what are some of those projects?
I'll go ahead and list them. So there's projects that are not doing well now. Caspa has not really done much. We're big Caspa fans. Also, for me, it's just like you have to be able to pivot. Has Caspa been disappointing? Near Protocol has been disappointing. Now, perhaps we get a reversal. Near Protocol has done well in the last week. Perhaps there's a little spark there, but this is a channel favorite that's not doing well. You go down the list, I was expecting Virtuous Protocol to do well. Another one that we were really bullish on. Sometimes we get things wrong, or sometimes narratives just don't play out in the same way that we do think. Virtuous Protocol is now outside the top 100. Also, I was very bullish on GALA. I thought that GALA, just as a simple gaming play, being one of the leaders, I thought was going to do well. However, the reality of it is there's been no gaming buzz when it comes to Web3 and crypto. We've had little sparks here and there, but it hasn't been very, very successful. Look at Sandbox right there. This one's falling too. It's just part of the game. You pick your winners. You put in a parlay or whatever it is. You pick 4 or 5 winners, and then you do sound reasoning, research. You're not going to nail them all. You miss out on a couple, and then hey. You nail some, you win some, you lose some, but you got to be flexible and ready to pivot.
Greza said, I am late. Hope I haven't missed today's sermon from Soapbox Rob.
That's right.
We have Magic joining us, joins us every Tuesday. Magic, welcome back to the show, my friend. How are you?
I'm good. I was just taking in the sermon, so.
Fair enough. Was it good?
It was good. It was very good. It's the only church I attend.
If you want to donate 10% of your earnings, we'll give you an address to do so if you want to support our Pastor Rob here. So, Magic, I would like you, if you don't mind, give me, through a Bitcoin chart, the worst case scenario and the best case scenario and what those would look like, if you don't mind.
Sure. Worst case scenario, the top is in.
What does that look like, though? Like where does it go to? What does price action look like? Are we going to see a few more rallies and kind of trapping longs? If the top is in, what does that look like, in your opinion, from a price action standpoint?
Yeah, let's get rid of this. We'll actually come back to what we call the PP zone, but we'll forecast for the new one. So that'll be fun. As you know, this is a big area for me coming up to this 124. This has kind of been my area that I had projected if expansion took according to, the last cycles, it would be less and less, and that this is where we top out somewhere between 103 and 124. Big zone, I know, but I'm not perfect. So it's going to be like a 20%, buffer zone. So that was right here. Oh, not that one. Not everything, just need a box. So if we know that, and we know that it was a very similar zone here, what I would start doing is mapping out where are my new averages going to come in. So worst case scenario, if the top is in, what can I start looking for? And I'll get rid of this stuff here just to clean things up. There's our 25 open, and that's from last week. You're going to want to know, where is my new yearly pivot and my new 6-month pivot going to be coming in? So, we project for those things, and I know where the 6-month pivot or the yearly pivot's going to be coming in as of today. It's actually very close to that like 97K region, which is our 6-month pivot currently. Then you have your bi-quarterly here at 113, which will drift down if price drifts down, right? So you're going to basically be looking at flipping support and resistance, kind of like what we saw here, where you saw it come up to that yearly pivot. And I'll actually put them on so people kind of can see what I'm talking about when I say that. There's my yearly, and we just need to go back a few years because that'll get us there. So there's your yearly pivot. It was also your 6-month pivot, making that pivot squared zone, the PP zone, for those that are childish like me. That was our zone here as well. They weren't exactly the same, but they made like a nice little box. It was about $3,000. And on this one, you would basically be looking at things and saying, if things even drifted down a little bit further, we're probably looking at somewhere between like 109, 108 down to maybe as low as 95K, something like this. And we'd say this is going to be the area that turns into resistance. If that happens and you start losing this zone, I mean, this is where you're going to want to be offloading or taking hedges. Because the sign of weakness is there. And the major sign of weakness for me is that bi-quarterly pivot. So coming into the year end, holding this like 97K region. And the main reason is as of right now, it's also your quarterly pivot. And anytime these two things are the same, if lost, every time in history, you've either seen the +1 or the -1 once it's tapped. And if it holds, you'll see the +1. If it's not held, you see the -1. And so the R1 would be here and the S1 is here. And you can see you've already hit the R1. So if in the next 3 months, we come down and lose 97K, that's the worst case scenario for me. You'll see that flip of support and resistance. And I'm at a minimum targeting back down into 83 and then probably a little bit lower. I'd start looking down into like the 60s. That's where I'd foresee like a bottom if this was the top. And it's all very hypothetical because again, we don't have that sign of weakness, in my opinion, yet where we can definitively say that the top is in. So you kind of have to tread carefully with your words and not marry an idea because it sounds cool that you're going to get to buy Bitcoin much cheaper. I just think that it's more likely than not we at least make an attempt down to this pivot. I don't know that we have to reach it. So best case scenario to me would be actually not reaching this zone. Main reason being is that we don't have to tap it. It is one of those things where it's a statistical average. It gets tapped, 70, 80% of the time in most cases. So there are going to be instances where you don't. And a lot of times when you don't meet that average from the prior session, it's because price is trending. And since this is such a long form average, it can take a while for that to kind of play out. And you may never actually tap it, even though you're just going sideways and down. So to me, best case scenario for price is that it continues sideways and down, as we talked about, going into the fourth quarter, and then kind of start putting in higher lows and catch, the doomers are still going to doom and let them doom as long as they want until finally there's a break. And I think that if you were going to look for a spot like that, it would be right around $105,000. I think it was going back to the well of the prior 6 months of price action to keep things relevant. And just looking at it as such, saying we kind of front ran our deviation average here. And we said the gold pocket is here. If we get that push into there and that point of control that was there, you want to see this level hold at 114,695. So if we're living below that, I expect to see about $105,000. So I'm expecting to see new lows unless we start living back above 114,695. And I don't think that's a bad thing for Bitcoin because I think it was Bill Noble, if you guys are familiar with him. I don't know that it's his quote, but he said, the bigger the base, the further into space you go. Just be putting in a bigger structure. And if it resolves bullishly, this holds, we don't actually see these doomer targets. We're still above our yearly open. You have a positive year. If rates are being cut, these are things where you could start seeing that blow off top and you have the structure to do it. So, that's kind of the positive. The more painful situation is probably something similar to this. And I don't think that we should always look at cycles repeating, but this was a really painful structure for a lot of people. And the reason I say it's painful is this took up a lot of time. This is the first of 2021 till technically resolution. A lot of people considered this resolution right here. This is 18 months of sideways, but the trend had really started flipping here and you saw your first major weakness here. And then you started failing to meet averages on medium timeframes like quarterlies, where that's, it's not a good thing. And you're generating price below them. And so what I mean by that is if you were to go to a quarterly, not a 6 month, and start looking at where's price coming in at in terms of comparison to these, we'll just put on 55 because I don't know how many far back this is. And we'll turn off the S1, R1, clean this up. You see how price is not actually meeting these anymore and it's generating below the average of the prior session, letting you know that they're trending down. So you want price to be opening up above these. You want to see these coming up as well with price, not running stagnant. And so when you start looking at things like that, why would I say it's painful to go sideways is because everyone will still be bullish that are bullish. They're going to say it's just a dip, buy the dip all the way down into here, when in reality, They've missed the major sign of weakness. Price is now underneath the 6-month average that's coming in. It would be underneath the quarterly average that's coming in these scenarios. I'll go to the future pivot so you guys can see what I'm talking about and get rid of the current one. So these are projections for the 6-month and quarterly. And so if price continues down here and starts hitting these targets and you're now underneath the averages, so the averages are generating above price, it's just letting you know that price is coming down, and people won't recognize it. They'll feed into the 4-year cycle, this time is not different, or maybe they'll feed into the idea that this time is different. It's whichever one validates their feelings and wants for higher prices. That's the painful part of it. And that's just point blank. I think the days of like this nuking down to like, everyone's scared of what happened back here before big institutions got involved, and you got like your Rona dumps, things like that. Even right here is pretty massive,
And I think we might have lost connection there with Magic. He mentioned he said the Rona dump. Yeah, to Magic's point, I don't think that, I think with the institutions here and how bullish they are and all these digital asset treasuries, I think that the idea that a large company with employees, billions of dollars, some of them trillions of dollars under management, have identified this asset as, hey, this is something we want to have exposure to. And then all of a sudden it goes down 20%. They just say, oh, nope, not going to buy it. It's garbage now because it went down 20%. No. So I agree with Magic leading up to when he kind of cut out there was the whole, oh my God, it's going to go down 80, 90%. I don't think that's ever going to happen again. My personal opinion, I could be wrong. Okay, well, we try to get Magic back on. Did you see Trump was at the UN today?
Yeah.
Did you see what happened? The man is being sabotaged.
A lot happened.
The man is being sabotaged. Okay, so very interesting. Very interesting. Okay, so this is him and Melania walking into the UN, getting ready to go and give the speech. Just watch.
You're going to push Zelensky for peace, President Trump.
So interestingly enough, as you can see here, Rob, the escalator's working just fine, right? You see escalators working fine. And then as soon as the First Lady and the President get on, well, the escalator stops working, and they are forced to walk up the escalator.
Very much appreciated.
Then you have this. Just, I don't know, an hour later, 40 minutes later, 30 minutes later. Take a listen to this.
Very much appreciated. And I don't mind making this speech without a teleprompter, because the teleprompter is not working. I feel very happy to be up here with you, nevertheless, and that way you speak more from the heart. I can only say that whoever's operating this teleprompter is in big trouble.
And then concluded by this. This is about 40 seconds.
I ended 7 wars, dealt with the leaders of each and every one of these countries, and never even received a phone call from the United Nations offering to help in finalizing the deal. All I got from the United Nations was an escalator that on the way up stopped right in the middle. If the First Lady wasn't in great shape, she would have fallen, but she's in great shape. We're both in good shape. We both stood. And then a teleprompter that didn't work. These are the 2 things I got from the United Nations, a bad escalator and a bad teleprompter.
Okay. Is that a coincidence? Or was that on purpose? Just curious.
No, it's not a coincidence. I'll say that there were probably 2 separate events. I feel like somebody that doesn't like Trump was at the top of the escalator and just hit the stop button.
Story time, huh? Tell us about your Trump story there, right?
My bad.
So, yeah, I think somebody just hit the stop button at the top.
You don't think it was the same?
There's so many people that don't like, I don't know what the numbers are, but you could rough it up to about 50-50 like and don't like Trump. And so you get 1,000 people or 3,000 people, however many people are at the damn UN conference.
You know,
There's a lot of people there that are like, you know what, screw this guy, and just, you know, they're not anything malicious. Just hit the stop button on the elevator, just kind of giggle, you know.
Yeah, but have you ever been on an elevator that's going up and all of a sudden it stops? You can fall flat on your face. You know what I've learned from that exchange?
If you fall because the escalator stops, like,
okay,
you need to get your balance checked, bro.
The biggest takeaway I took from that is that the first lady is in great shape.
Wow.
Trump is in also great shape, he said. I don't think it was a coincidence at all. Yeah, Magic is back. Magic, did you catch any of the video? Real quick, was it on purpose or was it a coincidence that the escalator stopped working as soon as he got on and that the teleprompter wasn't working when he was giving his speech?
I didn't catch the video, but I'll say that there's no such thing as coincidences. So
you must be, you must have family members that are detectives, maybe, because that's what they teach you is there is no such thing as coincidences. Okay, Magic.
Trust nobody.
You cut off when you were talking about seeing those big, massive 70% dumps, and I kind of added on top of that, and I said I don't think so either. It's hard for me to sit here and say institutions that have identified Bitcoin as an asset they want exposure to, all of a sudden seeing it dip 20% and saying, nope, I'm not touching it. Seeing it dip 30%, no, I'm not touching it. I don't see that happening. So to your point, I do want to, Magic, move on from Bitcoin to a project that has been performing very well. Something that I think about a month ago, I was in a Telegram with some other like influencers or whatever, and we don't shill shit in there. We just kind of share ideas. And I said, I feel like Avalanche is that ecosystem is going to start running. If you don't mind pulling up an AVAX chart, I'll find that post so people don't think I'm BSing them. AVAX currently today, I believe it is, unless it's changed, it is up, looks like 8% on the day, number 4 out of the top 100. As Aster continues its astronomical rally. Jesus Christ. Up another 43% today. Holy shite. Anyways, AVAX, $34.50. What are you seeing on the chart there, Magic?
Yeah. So we talked about this one putting in a base off of these lows, I think on the monthly here, and you can see it really set up shop. The big one was this quarterly SFP at 27.24. So if there is some kind of a pullback here off the yearly open, realistically, there's a fair amount that it could dump without really doing any damage to the structure of this, because you can see it's a pretty clear SR level. If you got to the 3-month chart, for anyone that's wondering what I mean by a QSFP, you can see that price was just trying to hold this as support on closure basis and then becomes kind of an SFP level for me to regard later. Above the yearly open, things do start to look interesting on this one. So above yearly open, we can then re-challenge that 2023 high, which has kind of been the cap for this asset. And you realistically have to live above $50. So you are at resistance right now, just to be point blank. This is a resistance zone. If it pops up above, you've got that move from like what, 34 to 49. That's a very solid move. Lots of percentage gains to be had there. But it needs to resolve this range. And you've now had multiple attempts at the highs and lows. So a break of this one, back test, or just a clean break, you know, you really want to be mindful of the highs, of course, up here. Like, you know, you want to know, where's my high from this rally? It's like $65. So that could be problematic if we just sweep it. But, you know, you start looking more towards like the prior all-time highs at that time. And I think that's when it's appropriate, is when you get that break of $50. We'll call it that because it's just a nice even round number. But if this thing came back to 27, it's fine. But if you start losing $27, you know, I would be worried about it. I don't know too much about like what's going on with them as a project, or if there's, you know, something that's happened fundamentally that's making it more attractive, or maybe it's just the mini alt season that's been going on. You know, excluding Aster, obviously I've seen some things about that, but you've got kind of a, I don't know if some people call it a falling pizza or a falling channel here, like esque look. So the top of the channel is probably going to come in somewhere up here. Again, a breakout of that, and you're just looking to take like the measurement of the range. So you could make a very, you know, I guess rudimentary way to look at it would be something like this, and just say, I'd like to know where the I guess we need to be negative. Is it -2 or -1 here? I think it's going to be -1. Yeah, -1, and it puts you closer like to this all-time high. So these targets don't necessarily have to fulfill when a range breaks like that, but it gives you a good idea that you're at least going to be challenging up into this resistance that's outlined above between like 97 and 120. So that's what you want to see on this one. Very point blank. It's range bound till it's not, but right now bulls have the ball.
Beautiful. And then Magic, I'd like to ask you for one more, if you don't mind. Hyperliquid, a lot of buzz around it. Now, a little more negative recently, as Arthur Hayes just a week ago said it's going to 126x and then sold the top. Interesting. And then now Aster is here, and there's competition. Unlocks are starting in November, so there's a lot of fear mongering. I would say FUD around Hyperliquid. What are you seeing on the chart structurally? Does it show any signs of weakness?
Yeah, I mean, it's been really strong. I think when we last looked at it, I said, I think this was the high here. So it would have been like back in May 27th. So about 4 months ago, looking to see if it would hold on to 28.47. Actually never retested it, continues to hold the higher lows. So that's the only thing you got to be aware of, is that none of these stops have been taken this entire move up. So is there weakness in the chart yet? No, not yet. And you still don't have any stops taken the entire way. So if this starts breaking down below the old SFP level here, I think we had outlined at 42.25, then yeah, you're probably going to start seeing, I wouldn't call it a cascade, but I would say you're going to run some people out of the market, because a lot of these guys either haven't moved their stop or have moved it up. So they're just kind of sitting there below these lows as they're trailing. So that'd be the only thing I'd be wary of, is basically giving up, this previous low here up to about $42. But if it continues the trend, you'd be looking for that higher low somewhere in this region, probably just above $42. And if that happens, it'll probably rally again. It may not make a new high, but it'll at least give you a good pop. So I would just be aware of, $42 down to 40, this like little zone here for this low. And if that gives, the trend line guys out in the world are going to have a field day. They're going to say, here you go, this breaks, we're looking to target like these lows and come back down to support. So that puts you back in like the $30 range at that point. And that's not to be bearish. It's just, there isn't weakness yet, but that's how you're going to find it on the chart if it's going to occur. And anytime you see a buildup of stop losses like this on a very systematic march, you just want to be aware that if one goes, there's a good chance that a lot of them are going to get taken at that point. You're going to see a quick wash. So
cool. Awesome, Magic. We appreciate you. Anything you'd like to note or say or do before we let you go? You ask me this every week. You'd think I'd come prepared for that. Next week I'll have something. Not financial advice, guys. Do not evade taxes. Not a good strategy. So do you hit those maxes though? Do you hit those maxes?
I do. I try to.
Just trying to get big like Rob. What's your max bench press? Your personal record ever?
Personal record, 162 pounds. Body weight was 325.
Okay. What about you?
I never really tested. I've never tested on max.
What man doesn't test out their max? Very strange.
I know.
Anyways, when I was at my peak male athletic performance, the year was 2009. I was in North Dakota, Dickinson College. I was weighing 218 pounds, and I bench pressed 225 around 22 times. I was the third. Is that my peak athletic performance? Nowadays, not so much. Not so much. So, yeah. Magic, love you, man. Thank you, and look forward to seeing you again next week, brother.
Thanks, guys. We'll see you.
Thank you.
All right.
Bet you want to bet that I could throw this football over those mountains.
Bro, I was a beast, bro. I was an absolute machine. I was one of 2 freshmen in the history of that school that was had a starting spot in spring training. Anyways, those are the good old days. Then I had kids. So I love my kids. Please, if you ever watch this, I love you. All right. If you want more trading, actually, I'll be doing a trading show after this show today, right here on this channel. We're going to be hunting for some shorts. We're going short hunting. He's wearing pants. I'm wearing pants. Gina's wearing pants. We don't find shorts in here. Hopefully, we can find him on the charts. Dad joke. Give me a brain thing. No, that. Okay. There was not that one. You're fired. There was a post, Rob, for the last 4 days. Big announcement on Tuesday. It's going to shock the world. Seismic waves. Here is what Dennis Porter said. Just got off the call with one of the most influential people in Washington, D.C. that I know. I told them the news coming tomorrow, and they agree that this announcement is going to cause a seismic shift in Bitcoin politics. What would you assume an announcement would be with this amount of hype behind it, Rob? That it would cause a seismic shift in Washington?
I was on
The
the.
U.S. buying Bitcoin? That would probably be big. Hey, we've been buying Bitcoin. That would cause a seismic shift.
We were discussing this before, and I was like, I said nothing big is gonna come out until there is some legislation passed and clarity from the
Hold
SEC.
on. Let's stick to the point here, guys. Okay? I mean, Rob. I would assume it would be something on that level, correct? For this level of,
I mean,
my
that's what they were portraying.
Correct,
but
correct.
I had no doubt in my mind that there was.
wasn't
there
anything?
was, yeah, we've seen
Well,
it time and time again.
Sure. But maybe some people haven't, and they are look at this like, oh my God, what can I expect? Did you see what the announcement was? Massive breaking. Extremely pro-Bitcoin candidate officially declares candidacy for governor of California. Ian Calderon. Seismic shift. A guy who served in the California State Assembly is running for governor. He's running for governor. Seismic shift in D.C. Wow. Oh my God. Everything's going to the moon, guys. Please, for the love of God, if you're watching, people like this, I mean, come on. That's why he oversold the crap out of it. I was listening to the spaces, and when I heard, I was like, what a joke. What an absolute joke. So I'm hoping that when you guys saw this whole announcement, and then it was reshared by other people in our space that I respect, or maybe I used to respect now. But it was a nothing burger. It was an absolute nothing burger. I mean, sure, good job, Ian. No idea who you are. You're a candidate. You're not even like the winner. So, anyways, let's talk a little bit about Avalanche. So, looks like whales on Avalanche are bullish. OXB2CA, it's a wallet address, opened a 5x long on a 17 million 9 hours ago. Meanwhile, Crypto Ogle, advisor of World Liberty Finance, opened a 10x long. And so this is really just saying, hey, people are going long, yada, yada. And then I posted to our Patreon members. This is my first post in about 2 weeks. I try to bring you quality, not just garbage quantity. And so this was a good one. I talked about BNB and AVAX. I'm not going to share the whole thing, obviously, out of respect to the people that pay for this information. But I'll just share the overall view that I had and the metrics I saw on Avalanche. And then I'm not going to share the 3 projects I mentioned that are all under 50 million market cap that I'm super bullish on. So AVAX was on a roll and crypto took a shit. AVAX metrics have been steadily rising. Monthly transactions, you look, a year ago was sitting at 2 million. Today, 32 million. My friends, that is what is that, Rob? A 15x? That is a 15x in monthly transactions year over year. Total DEX volume year over year is up 10x. 10x. And RWA's Avalanche is the #1 gainer in terms of 30-day TVL. And although the number doesn't show it here, its market share right here, 2.71%, is up 130%. It's not shown in the table, but that's what it is. Plus, Anthony Scaramucci announced the $500 million raise to buy AVAX. And again, I shared 3 projects in there that I believe could benefit from an overall ecosystem growth. With the recent rally with these metrics I kind of shared, and again, big thanks to our Patreon members for being proud, ardent supporters of this channel. If you want to support our Patreon, there's a link in the description. This recent price action, the recent metrics that we're seeing, has it changed your thesis or your prediction on where AVAX can go this market cycle? Talking to you.
I've been really plugged into the AVAX chart. So for me, at the beginning of the year, we saw I think it was $40 AVAX, right? Is that where we're
60?
Was it 60? Yeah, $60 AVAX. And then, $54 AVAX. And then we saw it get up to $35 just a couple times already in the last week. And so you ask yourself, is that the local top 35? Because it did run pretty high, it's ran a lot since the beginning of the month. So just over $20. It's at 35. it's still a pretty big, large market cap crypto. And I'm about as all in as you can get on Avalanche. I'm just going to just transparency. So I'm also very cautious on being euphoric or getting too ahead of myself. And so 35 doesn't seem like a blow off top. Doesn't seem like it's going to bounce here and reject down. I would say this recent move that we saw here where we got to $35, Bitcoin sold down to 112 and it bounced back without Bitcoin rallying. And even at this current moment, we're seeing Bitcoin flirt at 112 and AVAX is still holding strong. Now, AVAX was in the top 10 at one point, so it's really fallen down the market cap list compared to the other ones. And so for my market cycle top, I'm over $100 on Avalanche. My question is how long does it take to get there? That I'm not sure. Does this continue? I'll tell you what, there's 2 ETFs coming down the line that should be approved next month. We expect the Litecoin ETF to get approved. We expect the XRP one, Doge, and Avalanche, all right around the same time. And throw Cardano in the mix. Now, if those go live at roughly the same time that you get a big breakout out of Bitcoin, you catch momentum with Avalanche. Also, the momentum of the ETF. I think that what people have dismissed is the power of the ETF. How much money has flowed into these assets, particularly Bitcoin and Ethereum, through the ETF. But I think people are writing down the altcoin ETF potential. Why? Because you look back historically at Ethereum and you say, hey, look what happened when Ethereum's ETF went live. It pretty much sold down for 6 months, right? It was a bad time to buy ETH. And I think people are looking back at that and saying like, hey, like don't get all excited because the ETF is here. And it's usually the markets, it's usually the sentiment of the masses that indicate go the other way. And so have you heard a lot of people, David, saying that, hey, the ETF for Cardano, Solana, Avalanche, they're coming, so it's going to absolutely explode. Things are going to get absolutely crazy. Like, I haven't heard it. I'm not seeing it. Actually, I barely see any ETF news. And you got to go digging through the archives just to find any approval dates for said cryptos. And so do you think that the people out there, the everyday investor, do you think that they believe that the ETF is going to rally the crypto into giant green candles?
I don't know.
I'm not seeing it.
So I don't think that's what we're going to see with Bitcoin and ETH. I think because of where we are in the market cycle.
But do you think the retail, the guy over here ready to buy, do you think that the person on the other end of the camera, do you think that they believe the ETF is going to make the cryptos go parabolic?
Probably not.
Exactly. Now, what happened when ETH ETF was coming out? Everyone was looking back at the Bitcoin chart and they were like, hey, Bitcoin, look how much, ETF came out. I think Bitcoin was at 40,000. And then it shot up to like 80,000 after a couple weeks sell off. And then it just kept accumulating in price, Now look, we're over 3x the entry position on the ETF listing. But people attributed Bitcoin's ETF launch to ETH and expected that to happen, and it didn't. What happened? The market said this is going to happen, and it went the other way. And I think what the market is telling you here is that the ETFs for all these cryptos, they're not excited. I'm not seeing any news. Like I've been scrolling through, like the ETF is supposed to go live in 2 weeks for Litecoin and Solana. I'm scrolling through X trying to find anything ETF related. I can't find a single thing. Here, pull up my laptop. Like it's just nothing, not one piece. And this is our crypto handle. Not one piece. We do got Riley Reid over here singing.
Riley who?
Riley Reid, you don't know who that is?
No. Who's that?
If you Google search it, don't put video as the
porn star.
Yeah,
Okay.
there you go. All right,
Wouldn't know who that is.
but anyways, like I was just like, I'm not even kidding. Like I spent 15 minutes and I was like, there's got to be something on ETFs here.
Well,
and
you
nothing.
can always just
And
search.
I know,
James
no.
Safer.
You can search James Safer, but ETF crypto. This even here, you're not seeing anything, man. You know, it's you know, you got Grayscale.
Was that George from Grayscale? Or George from Crypto? Huh.
No.
I can't.
But anyways, you know, there's really not. There's no, even here's not much.
But what's your
there's not
point,
much-
man? What is
What I'm saying is that
you're
the
talking in circles. The point is what? People don't care?
The market is telling you people don't care. And what I'm telling you is if you fall asleep on this, there's going to be a giant move in the altcoin space, particularly in all of said ETF tokens. I think that the Solana ETF, the Litecoin ETF, all of this is going to make crypto, particularly those projects, pop the hell off, bro. I'm trying to like frame it for you guys.
I know
It's like me pointing at the ocean and it just receded back 20 meters.
tsunami's coming.
That's what I'm telling you. And everyone's over here drinking pina coladas, just chilling on the damn beach. And I'm like, yo.
It actually happens. Believe it or not, it happens. Guys, we got to wrap up the show. I know I mentioned a new potential runner on Solana. Don't pull up the computer. We don't have time to talk about it now, but if you want to learn about it, hop over in about 5 minutes. I'll be starting the trading show right here on this channel. If you just stay in this chat, you'll be auto-directed to the trading show. I'll talk about it. We'll dig into it. We'll look at it from a fundamental standpoint. Is it a good buy? Is it a bad buy? It's currently sitting at under $50 million. Could it be the next Aster? We're going to talk about that, and we're going to look over the charts, and I'm going to be seeing if we can hunt some shorts, or maybe the charts have turned. Maybe you're telling us that longs are the play now. You'll have to watch to find out. So come join me again right here on this channel in 5 minutes. With that being said, Gina, roll the outro. Thank you all very much for tuning in. If you're not subscribed to the channel, please make sure to do so. Thank you to all the channel partners. Thank you to the mods. And thank you to all.
Also, real quick, Magic Internet Money said he met Riley Reid once. Fun fact. Changing your name from Magic Internet Money to Magic Internet Boyfriend.
Everybody know we here for entertainment and info. Gonna show you how to get that
That's our
big
boy.
dough. So every day stay tapped in.
Thanks,
Big
guys. I
facts,
was
no
getting to the
capping.
part where
With
I was
Bitcoin,
thinking
if you
about
in, then you
this.
win. We provide the pot with no
Doesn't matter
fraction.
anymore.
It's
Thank
Big
you.
Rob,
See you next time.
David.
Bye.
I split the game, but they gave it. Named according to your favorite. I got dry powder, why save it? To the OGs, new beginners. Special shout out to the well members. Buy the dip, sell winners. Ain't really nothing you can tell sinners. Tune in for the latest new flavors. They gonna teach us mean coins. They pull